So today we are going to discuss on the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and many of us have already had a preliminary introduction to the Gita. We know what the Gita is, but what exactly is there in the first chapter of the Gita, and how does this first chapter of the Gita help us in our daily lives? We'll try to understand that. Actually, right from our primary education, secondary education, our graduation, post graduation, we have read many books. Books is nothing new to all of us. Maybe in school, I need to mute somebody. Maybe in school, colleges, we had physics, chemistry, then anatomy, physiology, and all those subjects we had. Now, all the subjects, they were giving us a lot of information about the world outside. And it's always good to know about the environment in which we are staying, because knowledge, to some extent, gives us control. The more we know, the more there is a chance that we can control something and then use it for good purposes, suitable purposes. The difference with this book, the Bhagavad Gita, is that Bhagavad Gita tells us about the world inside. And why is this important? Why is this necessary? Just like I mentioned, knowledge has a good purpose to it, that it gives us control. Similarly, knowledge about our inside also helps us to control ourselves. What is there inside us? Our emotions are there inside us. Our responses, how we look at things, our perspectives, they're all inside us. So if we don't have the right perspective, if we don't give the right response, we all know how things can become totally messed up. Most of the fights that happen between two people, most of the relationship issues that happen between two people are because of undecided, unpremeditated responses. So two people meet, they are not sure how to respond to each other. Somebody says something, the other person gives a very immediate knee-jerk response, and then there is a fight, and a relationship that took years and years to build together is all broken up in a moment, is it not? So the Bhagavad Gita is not a information book. In Sanskrit, it can be called as Jnana Shastra. So physics textbook is a Jnana Shastra, chemistry textbook is a Jnana Shastra. Some other textbooks can be Jnana Shastra. But what is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is how to deal with the inside, how to deal with our emotions, with our perspectives. And that's why Bhagavad Gita is not a Jnana Shastra, it is a Vyavahara Shastra. How do we respond in a particular situation? What is the situation in Arjun's life? Is Arjun somebody who is unintelligent, without any character, not having any strength, not having any wealth? No, Arjun is one of the most successful people. Actually, he has everything that all of us aspire for. But even somebody as successful as Arjun, when he can face a situation where he's completely confused and where he does not understand what is right and what is wrong, that is a small hint from Krishna to all of us that even in our lives, we may be very successful from our own side, from our own perspective, but there can come a situation in our lives where we can become totally helpless and we can become totally confused. So, in such situation, when we don't know what is right and what is wrong, where do we go to? What did Arjun do? This is a lesson for all of us through Arjun. So, first thing we learned is Bhagavad Gita is not a Jnana Shastra. Bhagavad Gita is a Vyavahara Shastra. And that's why this is the importance of this one book. For millions of years, we have referred to the Vedic scriptures. And amongst all the Vedic scriptures, the most famous Vedic scripture all of us will accept is actually the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because it teaches us how to live in this world. There are many Vedic scriptures that talk about leaving this world, how to deal with death. But till the point death comes, isn't living in this world important? So Bhagavad Gita focuses on living in this world, and that is why the Bhagavad Gita is very important. Actually, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Srila Prabhupada, one time he was in London, and the news reporters in London, they asked Srila Prabhupada, actually in London we have everything. We have the latest technology, we have the latest, biggest skyscrapers, and we have the most advanced machines and everything. In fact, at one point of time, we are ruling over almost the entire world. What will you, as a sannyasi, give to us? What do you have to give to us? And that time, Srila Prabhupada gave a very beautiful answer. Srila Prabhupada said, you Britishers, you ruled over India and you looted India, you looted all the treasures of India, but you forgot to loot the biggest treasure of India. And I have come here to London to give you that treasure. And that treasure is the Bhagavad-Gita. So this is the confidence that Srila Prabhupada had, that the Bhagavad-Gita is the biggest treasure of India, and it can actually transform the lives of anyone within India and outside India. So this is something which is very unique about the Bhagavad-Gita. Bhagavad-Gita is not just the book that criminals have to take an oath by putting their hands on in the courts. Bhagavad-Gita is that book. If read properly, criminals will not be there in the jail. Criminals will not have to undergo any situation where they are brought in a court. So we'll just quickly go through some of the initial shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita, starting from chapter 1. And the first shloka of the Gita is very nice and very famous. This is Dhritarashtra speaking. So Dhritarashtra says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. And then he says, he's speaking about Kurukshetra, but he's talking that this Kurukshetra is a special place. It's not just a war field. It's not just a big open ground. It is Dharma kshetra. It's a holy place. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. These big armies have assembled together for the purpose of fighting. And then comes the critical two words. Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. He separates his own sons, that is the Kauravas, Mamakaha, from the sons of Pandu, and he calls them Pandava. So in essence, he's asking, O Sanjay, my secretary, please tell me, what did the sons of Pandu and my sons, the sons of Dhritarashtra, what did they do on the battlefield? Now, actually, how does the word Kaurava come? The word Kaurava comes by the presence of a king called Kuru, who was in the lineage of these kings. So high above in the lineage, there is a king called Kuru. And so anybody in that family is called a Kaurava. It means Dhritarashtra's sons are also called Kauravas, and Pandu's sons are also called Kauravas. But it's very interesting, right from the first shloka, Dhritarashtra wants to clear demarcation against Pandu's sons, and he's saying, Pandu's sons are different and my sons are different. So here is a person who believes in clear division. Right from the first look of the Gita, Dhritarashtra's image is very clear. He wants to create a separation. My sons and Pandu's sons are given a different name, as if he is the only Kaurava, and as if only his sons can be called as Kauravas. Pandu's sons are not Kauravas. So I'll tell you some shlokas in the Gita when Krishna is talking with Arjun, and Krishna is calling Arjun not as a Pandava, but Krishna is calling Arjun in relation to the Kuru Vansh. So in shloka number 2.41, 6.43, and 14.13, Krishna calls Arjun as Kuru Nandan. He's linking him to the Kuru Vansh. In shloka number 11.48, Krishna calls Arjun as Kuru Pravira, expert in the Kuru Vansh. In shloka number 4.31, Krishna calls Arjun as Kuru Sattama, the best of the Kurus. And in 10.19, Krishna calls Arjun as Kuru Shrestha. So it's very interesting. Actually, Arjun is one of the Kauravas, but Dhritarashtra in the first shloka is differentiating and calling him, the whole family is Kaurava, but these 5 sons of Pandu, they're Pandavas, keep them separate. He's trying to divide the family. And what about Krishna? Krishna is trying to unite the family, even if Dhritarashtra calls Arjun as Pandav. But Krishna again and again in these 6 different shlokas throughout the Gita is calling Arjun in relation to the Kuru Vansh. So here we see the difference
Wonderful.
in the mentality. I would
Awesome.
request the co-hosts to kindly mute those who unmute themselves. So here is the difference, that on one side we have Dhritarashtra, whose very clear agenda, he wants to divide the family. And on one side we have a person like Krishna who wants to unite the family. Now, all of us, we are aware of this emotion called fear. In Marathi, we'll call it bhiti. So this friend of ours, bhiti, it actually never leaves us. And we'll quickly see how in the Gita, what is the effect and what is the relation of fear in different people's lives. So if you go through the first chapter of the Gita, very clearly, Dhritarashtra is fearful in the very first shloka because he's asking Sanjay, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a holy place, Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra? So why is he asking this question? It is like asking a question, when my sons and the other brother's sons went to a restaurant and they ordered food, what did they do? Obviously, they ate. It is like asking, when my team and my brother's team was on the cricket ground and they were about to play a match, what did they do? Obviously, they played a match. So, this war of Mahabharat was pre-decided. It's not just one day decision. And for years together, this has been going on, that there is so much injustice against these five brothers by the 100 brothers. And so everyone knows there's going to be a war and what is the purpose of the war and who started the war. And now Dhritarashtra is asking, what did they do? So the intention is very clear. Actually, there was fear in the heart of Dhritarashtra that somehow, because the war was such a huge war, there were so many people involved, they had to choose this holy place called Kurukshetra, which even today exists. North India, between Delhi and Chandigarh, there is a place called Kurukshetra even now. And 1 hour from Kurukshetra is a place called Karnal. Even today, that city is called Karnal. Karnal is the place where Karna was killed. So that whole area, even today, is available. And in those days, this place was selected. So Dhritarashtra has fear in his heart that this is a holy place, and holy place has its effect on the minds of people. So my sons, who have done so much injustice throughout their lives on the Pandavas, what if this holy place has an effect on my sons and they call for a truce? What if they say, oh, we don't want to fight a war, we are ready to just share our wealth with the Pandavas? That will be a big disaster. I want them to fight, I want them to continue their injustice. So there is fear in the heart of Dhritarashtra. Also, in one sense, Dhritarashtra is praying in his own heart, let not this holy place have an effect on my sons, but let the holy place have an effect on Pandu's sons. Why? Let the Pandu sons, let Arjun, Yudhishthir, Bhim, and all feel the effect of the goodness of this holy place and let them say, oh, we don't want to fight a war, we just want peace, and we don't want to even ask for any of our rights. Let us go away from this place. And in this way, let my sons continue to rule over the whole property. So Dhritarashtra's fear is revealed right in the first shloka. Now the question is, does Dhritarashtra not understand that there is this injustice that is happening on his brothers? There have been so many instances in the past, including the attempted disrobing of Draupadi when Dhritarashtra just kept quiet. So he understands, right? All of you can correct me, but I have seen in my life, we have five senses, five karmendriyas, five gyanendriyas. Yes. So let's say somebody is born blind. Then what I have seen is, because he is born blind, one of his other senses will be very strong. So his sense of hearing will be very strong. His sense of smelling will be very strong, or his sense of touch will be very strong. So you see blind people, they have a stick in their hand, and the sense of touch is very strong, and they're very attentively hearing to the sounds, and they can understand when they're approaching a road or when they're approaching a wall, and they can really take care of their activities like that. So in this way, many times I have seen, if one of our senses is not functioning properly, the Supreme Lord has balanced it with additional sensitivity in one of the other senses. Is it not? So now here we are dealing with Dhritarashtra, who was born blind. His eyes were not functioning. If you look at Dhritarashtra, actually he's a very intelligent person. In a very amazing way, he made sure that he got the throne because Pandu was cursed and Pandu had to go to the forest. So he was more of a replacement king. In our cars, sometimes the main four tires, we use them and one of them gets punctured or something. So then we have a fifth tire, which is a spare tire. And we use the fifth tire till the time we go to a mechanic or something and get the original tire fixed. And when the original tire is repaired, then we again put the original tire and that stepney, the fifth spare tire, is again put back. We never ever use the fifth tire because the purpose of the fifth tire is always to be in the spare. It's not one of the best tires. So here is a person who was not actually supposed to be the king, but in the absence of the original king, he was more like that spare tire which was used till the original tire's sons, the most qualified sons of Pandu, they become elderly and they become fit to sit on the throne. But once this spare tire started rolling on the ground as a tire, then he got attached to the riding. And then he said, now I'm not going to come out of this place. I'm going to make sure that every single of my son is going to be the next king. So in this way, actually, there was a lot of tricks played by Dhritarashtra at every situation, even though he could understand the conspiracy, including he made a home in which the Pandavas will be sent and they will be burnt alive. So this is a whole big conspiracy to burn alive your own relatives. How can somebody do this? It means he's a very evil person, but that evil tendency in his heart has the support of very amazing, smart intelligence. And only when his intelligence is supporting his evil tendencies, then so many very disastrous plans can come up. So, although Dhritarashtra did not have eyes to see, but the Supreme Lord has given him tremendous intelligence. And this tremendous intelligence could have been used for the right purpose, but he used this amazing intelligence that he has to always justify the wrong activities of his sons. And whenever some questions were asked by sometimes by Bhishma, sometimes by Krishna, how you could do this? This is wrong. You have to stop this. You cannot be blind. At least morally, ethically, you cannot be blind. Dhritarashtra would very like a slippery snake. He would just pass around those arguments and make sure that he evades those arguments. So here is somebody who is very intelligent, although he does not have eyes. There is internal intelligence and there is external intelligence also. The Supreme Lord not only gave Dhritarashtra internal intelligence, the Supreme Lord also gave Dhritarashtra external intelligence in the form of Vidur. So Vidur is Dhritarashtra's constant companion. And Vidur is very intelligent, Vidur is very moral and very ethical, and every time Dhritarashtra did wrong, although others could not push him, but Vidur always made a point to stop him and tell him, my dear king, this is not the right thing. My dear king, please don't do this. So the Supreme Lord has helped Dhritarashtra in two amazing ways by giving him very sharp intelligence, obviously which he misused, and very strong external intelligence in the form of Vidur, which was very helpful actually if he would have accepted that guidance. But there is congenital blindness and then there is intentional blindness. Dhritarashtra is guilty on both counts. There is congenital blindness, born without eyes, but there is also a lot of intentional blindness. He disregarded the voice from inside. He disregarded the voice from outside and continued to do injustice against the Pandavas. And this is the reason why there is so much fear in the heart of Dhritarashtra. Very interesting that Dhritarashtra is the ruling king. Dhritarashtra is sitting on the throne for so many years. And usually, you and me, we feel if we have power, we will not have fear. ज्याच्या हातात सत्ता आहे त्याला भीती कशाची. इथे आपण बघतोय Dhritarashtra has been sitting on the throne undisputed. using his intelligence to suppress any kind of good things in the form of the Pandavas. But he is the one who opens the Bhagavad Gita with a fearful question. Oh, Sanjay, my sons are there and the Pandava sons are there, and this is Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra. What effect did it have on my sons? And did it have a favorable effect on Pandu sons? Did they run away from the battlefield? And I hope my sons did not call for a truce and they continue to fight and they continue their injustice on Pandavas. How can somebody who is ruling, how can somebody who is powerful, how can somebody who is controlling the armies, how can somebody who cannot be challenged by any way, how can he be fearful? This fear is not a product of the external world. This fear is the fear that the Supreme Lord generates in the heart. So along with the Atma in the heart, Sarvasya Chaham Ridhi Sannivishto. Krishna speaks in the Gita that I am also seated in everyone's heart. And the Paramatma can create fearlessness in the heart of a good person. Similarly, the Paramatma can sometimes create fear in the heart of an evil person, telling him, you may have power, you are sitting on the throne, you are controlling the armies, everything is with you logically, but you don't have my support. Why? Because you are acting, thinking, speaking, walking, doing everything in the wrong way. And that's why you will be cursed to always live a life of fear. So one lesson for all of us is we may be powerful, we may be smart, but if we are walking on the wrong path, all of us have experienced fear in the heart. And out of the 4 activities that all of us do, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, if you see, eating we cannot do for long. And sleeping we cannot do for long. And mating we cannot do for long. But defending is something that all of us can do all the time. And that's why fear factor actually rules our lives to the extent to which we are doing wrong things, even though we may be very powerful. This is the first lesson to learn from Dhritarashtra's fear in the first shloka. We'll shift our focus to Duryodhan. So in the first chapter, if you see in shloka number 1.3, Duryodhan uses diplomacy to glorify Dronacharya, and he tells him, you know what, Dronacharya, the opposite side's commander-in-chief is Drishtadumna, and this Drishtadumna, you taught him. So please be careful, because your Shishya, Tava Shishyena Dhimata, your disciple is the commander-in-chief of the opposite army. So he's using diplomacy. Why? Because he's fearful that Dronacharya has a lot of affection for the Pandavas, and that's why he may not fight valiantly. In 1.4, he says, Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhimarjuna Samayudhi. So he says, on the opposite side are warriors like Bhim and Arjun, who are very great archers. Now, Arjun is a great archer. Is Bhim a great archer? I never heard of Bhim being a great archer, but out of that fear factor, seeing Bhim in front of him, actually, it affects Duryodhan. And because he is also on the wrong side, he's not able to connect his intelligence to his tongue. And that's why in fear he says, oh, in front of me are great warriors like Arjun and Bhim, who both are great archers. Maheshwasa. So this is a fault. When we are fearful, then we don't speak coherently. We speak incoherently. And he's calling Bhima as a great archer. In 1.6, he glorifies Abhimanyu. And he says, Abhimanyu is a great warrior. Now, Abhimanyu, during the time of the war, was only a 16-year-old boy. How can somebody like Duryodhan, who's a great warrior and very powerful, and many people think that Duryodhan is also one of the most powerful warriors, when he's looking at the army, he's speaking about one. He's speaking about Drishtadumna, he's speaking about Bhim, he's speaking about Arjun, he's also speaking about Abhimanyu. It means there is so much fear in the heart of Duryodhan. Even the 16-year-old boy, who is the son of Arjun, can be a great impediment to this war, and he can cause me a lot of trouble. So 1.3, 1.4, 1.6, these 3 shlokas speak about the fear of Duryodhan. In 1.9, Duryodhan again speaks that actually there are many people assembled on this battlefield, and they have all assembled here to die for my sake. Mad arthe tyakta jivita. So again, Duryodhana is saying, all these people will probably have to die because they are on my side. And he just polishes it by saying, they will die for my sake. But actually, what he's saying is they'll have to die because they are on the wrong side. So this 1.19 again shows the fear in Duryodhana's heart. In 1.10, he says that the strength of the Pandava army is measurable, it is understandable, but the strength of my army is immeasurable. So, to hide his fear, he is trying to pump up his own soldiers. Oh, don't worry, we have big army. We have 11 Akshauhini Sena, and the Pandavas have only 7 Akshauhini Sena. But he cannot hide the fear that is there in his heart. And the last thing, 1.19, it is mentioned, Hridayani Vyadarayat. The description is when Krishna and Arjun blew their conch shells, that sound, it created a sound in the whole ether, and the hearts of the Kauravas were shattered. Hridayani Vyadarayat. So we saw the fear, which is very prominent in the most powerful person on the planet at that time, Dhritarashtra. And then we also saw fear being repeated in 6 different shlokas by Duryodhan, even though he is having the entire army along with Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Bhishma, Karna, Ashwathama. All these big warriors are all with Duryodhan, but he cannot hide the fear factor. Now let me tell you something. In the first chapter, shloka number 3, 4, 5, and 6, these 4 shlokas, Duryodhan sees the army in front and he describes the army. But when he describes the army, even though he has mentioned even somebody like Abhimanyu, who is a 16-year-old boy, he fails to mention one very important person in the opposite army. This person is one of the most important persons who's going to play a huge role in the war. And everyone, almost everyone understands that this person, his guidance, his advice, his support, his motivation is going to play a major role in the Mahabharata war. But our friend Duryodhan completely fails to mention him. And this is none other than Shri Krishna. So he's seeing Drishtadumna, he's seeing Bhima, he's seeing Arjun, he's seeing Abhimanyu. Is he not seeing Krishna? But you know why he does not mention Krishna? Duryodhan is like a person who always sees the externals. And he looks at Krishna, who's a major warrior, who's a fearless warrior, who has fought from the age of 6 months with Putana, who has in front of everyone killed Kamsa at the age of 11 years. But he does not mention his name. You know why? Because he has a very external understanding of a warrior. And he says, see, this Krishna has taken a promise not to fight. So he's not going to use his gada, he's not going to use his bow, he's not going to use his Sudarshan Chakra, whatever. He is a cricketer without a bat. Marathi मध्ये म्हणे ना, बिना वस्त्र्याचा नावी काय कामाचा. So something like that, Duryodhan is looking at Krishna and saying, what is this Krishna going to do? Finally, his strength is in his weapons, right? But he's not going to use his weapons, so why do I need to fear him? He does not understand. Wars are fought with weapons to some extent, but actually wars are fought with a strategy. Wars are fought with a plan, from where to attack first, and to give a wrong idea to the enemy, from when to retreat, and to give a false impression of being fearful and then give a massive attack. This is how wars are fought. Wars are not fought with missiles and weapons and bows and arrows. Wars are fought with minds. Wars are fought with bravery. Wars are fought with courage. Wars are fought with determination. So discounting the effect of Krishna on the battlefield in terms of all these qualities, he is looking at Krishna in a very external way. And he's saying, बिना वस्त्राचा नावी काय कामाचा. अभिमन्यूचं नाव घेतो, भीमाचं नाव घेतो, अर्जुनाचं नाव घेतो, दृष्टद्युम्नाचं नाव घेतो. याचं नाव घ्यायचं, श्रीकृष्णाचं नाव घ्यायचं. And this again shows how Duryodhan is a very shallow person. So Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, both of them are very powerful externally, but internally they are very shallow. Internally they are very hollow. And that's why, even though they have so much power, they are completely fearful in this battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now we'll shift our focus to another great warrior, that is Arjun. Let's see what Arjun says in the beginning of the Gita. So we go to shloka number 1.21. And 1.21, Arjun says, Senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapayame achyuta. O Achyuta, O Krishna, please take my rath, please take my chariot and place it in the middle of these two armies. It means his rath, his chariot was somewhere on the side, and he's requesting Krishna, please take, I want to see. In 1.23, he says, Dhartarashtrasya durbuddher yuddhe priya chikirshavah. He says, Dhartarashtrasya durbuddher, the sons of Dhritarashtra who have a durbuddhi, who have a wrong intelligence, yuddhe priya chikirshava. Those who have assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to they are priya for a war. उनको युद्ध करना है, दुर्बुद्धि है उन लोगों को. I want to see them. Yavad etam niriksheham. I want to see all of them. So on one side is Dhritarashtra who's ruling. On one side is Duryodhan who has power. But both of them, we saw how they're completely overcome by fear. And on the other side is this warrior called Arjun, who's fearlessly telling Arjun, please take my chariot in the middle of the battlefield. I want to see both the armies, and I want to especially see who's there on the opposite side so that I can make a good calculation and I can fight valiantly. So the question is, ज्यांच्याकडे शक्ती आहे, ज्यांच्याकडे सत्ता आहे, ज्यांच्याकडे पॉवर आहे, त्यांना भीती पाहिजे की जे वनवासामध्ये 12 वर्ष आता हिंडलेत, ज्यांच्याकडे शक्ती नाही, ज्यांच्याकडे माणसं नाही, आणि कोणी मित्र असतील, त्यांनी फक्त त्यांची साथ दिली आहे या कुरुक्षेत्राची, पण स्वतःची सेना नाहीये त्यांच्याकडे, यांना भीती असावी की कोणाला भीती असावी. And a very logical mind, a very intelligent mind will say, somebody who has been in Vanvas, he should be fearful. But Arjun is not fearful, and Arjun says, please take my chariot. I want to see every one of them. I'll make a plan and I will fight bravely. Who is fearful? Somebody who has something to lose is fearful, is it not? So a person like Arjun, a person like Yudhishthir, actually, they don't have any wealth. In one sense, they don't have any gold, they don't have any property, they don't have any kingship over any kingdom. So they know, if I have gold, gold can be stolen. If I have money, money can be stolen. If I have property, property can be stolen. But my wealth is my character. And character cannot be stolen by anybody. My wealth is my adherence to the right principles of life. आयुष्यामध्ये जे योग्य आहे ते जीवनाच्या पहिल्या क्षणापासून मी करत आलोय, त्याच्यानी मी जे समाधान कमवलंय, यामुळे मी जो एक आत्मविश्वास कमवलाय, यामुळे परमेश्वराचा मला जो एक आश्रय प्राप्त झालाय, हाऊ कॅन समबडी स्टील अवे दॅट? सो इट्स व्हेरी इंटरेस्टिंग that character cannot be stolen, your dependence on God cannot be stolen, your adherence to the path of dharma can never ever be stolen. And that is why the things which are possible to be stolen are in abundance with Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan. And although along with the things that can be stolen, they also have unlimited power, but they are in fear. And Yudhishthir, Arjun, Bhim, in one sense, they don't have any of the things that can be stolen. They are full of wealth, of some things that can never be stolen. And that's why they are completely fearless and they are very much dependent on the shelter of Krishna. So here is a very important lesson for us, that आपण जेव्हा परमेश्वराला प्रणाम करतो, तेव्हा आपल्या जीवनात अनेक गोष्टींचा परिणाम बदलतो. Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, they never offered a pranam to the Supreme Lord. And the life of Pandavas, although it is full of difficulties, is also full of pranams to the Supreme Lord. And that's where the parinam of Arjun is very different. See, sometimes in our lives, we may have some friends, but the friend of Arjun is a very special friend. Arjunaचा मित्र स्वार्थी नाहीये, अर्जुनाचा मित्र सारथी आहे. आपल्या जीवनात कधी मित्र असतात, ते आपल्या सारथी बनण्यासाठी तयार नसतात, आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करण्यासाठी तयार नसतात, पण ते स्वार्थी असतात आणि आपलं जे काही यश आहे आपलं जे काही नाव आहे त्याचा फायदा करून घेण्यासाठी आतुर असू शकतात. द ऍडव्हान्टेज ऑफ अर्जुन इज in difficult times Krishna was always there. Such a good friend he had. And today, when he needs guidance, Krishna is not only going to be the Sarathi of his chariot, Ratha, but he's also going to be the Sarathi of his life. Actually, throughout his life, Krishna has caught the, the reins, the ropes of the life chariot of Arjun and the Pandavas, and he is the one who always guides them. Don't get into this. Fight. Don't sit down and suffer unlimitedly. So कधी कधी अध्यात्मामध्ये सहनशीलतेला खूप महत्व दिलं जातं. Is it not? सहनशील असायला पाहिजे. And Krishna also, probably one day we'll discuss that. 2.14, Krishna says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkhada, agama paino anitya, stam stitikshasva bharata. So Krishna tells Arjun, you should learn to tolerate. Life is very impermanent. Life keeps on changing. So Arjun, please learn to tolerate. But this same Krishna who's telling Arjun to tolerate the ever-changing situations of life is telling Arjun to not tolerate the injustice of Duryodhana. That is why the war is necessary. मग आपल्याला हे पण कळायला पाहिजे, सहनशीलता कुठे आपल्यासाठी घातक ठरू शकते आणि सहनशीलता कुठे आपल्याला खूप पोषक ठरू शकते. So the sahanshilta, the tolerance that Krishna wants us to practice is not against injustice. If somebody is abusing us, if somebody is hurting us, if somebody is exploiting us, we are not supposed to tolerate it. And that is what Krishna is telling Arjun. Please do not tolerate the injustice that the Kauravas are doing to you, but please tolerate the difficulties that come in your life when you decide not to tolerate the injustice. तुमच्या जीवनामध्ये जो अन्याय होतोय त्याला सहन करू नका. आय नीड टू म्यूट. तुमच्या जीवनामध्ये जो अन्याय होतोय त्याला सहन करू नका, पण त्या अन्यायाला सहन न करण्यासाठी तुम्ही जेव्हा एक युद्ध पुकारताय त्या युद्धामध्ये ज्या अडचणी येतील, जे संघर्ष येतील, त्याला सहन करायला शिका. हाऊ डीप इज दिस गायडन्स? What to tolerate, what not to tolerate, where to keep quiet, where not to keep quiet. What if we have a friend in our life like Krishna who tells us कुठे शांत बसायचं आणि कुठे बोलायचं? And what if we are so fortunate? So we can just imagine how on one side externally Arjun and the Pandavas don't have any wealth, but they are so confident, they are so courageous, they are so brave, they want to fight this war. And on the other side, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana have everything that one could aspire for, but even after having everything, they are completely overcome by the feeling of fear. So one thing is very important for us to understand, that Arjun also has some fear, and I would like to mention these fears in the heart of Arjun also. But see the category of this fear. It's a very different category of fear. Shloka number 28 and 29, Krishna is hearing from Arjun. Arjun is saying, actually, in this war, I don't want to kill my relatives. माझ्या स्वतःच्या नातेवाईकांना मारू शकणार नाही मी. So he has that fear. स्वतःच्या स्वजनांना मारणं योग्य नाही, नाही का? तर कुठेतरी माझ्या हातून खूप मोठी तरी चूक घडत असेल. So he has that fear. Am I doing something very wrong? Am I doing wrong by killing my relatives? In Shloka number 32, he says, actually, even after I win this war, I may have nobody to enjoy the results of the war. So he has that fear. मी एकटा पडलो तर, आणि माझे हे सगळे नातेवाईक आहेत, माझे सगळे जवळचे आहेत, ते जर नष्ट झाले या युद्धामध्ये तर. So he has that fear, but this fear is of losing the near and dear ones. In Shloka number 36, he says, killing people is a sinful activity, is it not, Krishna? मारहाण करणं, रक्त वाहणं हे चुकीचं आहे, नाही का? तर असं जर मी कृत्य केलं तर मी नरकात जाईन आणि मला नरकात जाण्यासाठी भीती वाटते. So he has a fear, but that fear is in connection with going to hell for doing wrong things, for having the wrong understanding. And in shloka number 37 to shloka number 42, Arjun says, actually, by fighting this war, I may kill all the senior male members of society. And after killing all the senior male members of society, I may destroy all the family traditions. पूर्वजांना पिंड अर्पण करणे, पूर्वजांचं श्राद्ध करणे, हे सगळं कोण करतात? परिवारातले जे वरिष्ठ मंडळी असतात ते करतात. आणि असं होऊ शकतं की या युद्धामध्ये मी हे सगळं करेन तर पूर्वजांना, या संपूर्ण मनुष्य समाजाच्या पूर्वजांना पिंडदान वगैरे करणं, ती जी प्रथा आहे ती थांबू शकते. आणि दॅट इज नॉट व्हेरी गुड. सो आय थिंक आय एम डुईंग रॉंग अँड दॅट्स वाय आय डोंट वॉन्ट टू फाईट दिस वॉर. सो वी सॉ द फिअर ऑफ धृतराष्ट्र. It is born out of possessiveness. He wants to control everyone. He wants to continue his injustice. We saw the fear of Duryodhan, which is more born out of a fear of understanding I was always wrong and maybe in this dharma kshetra I will receive punishment. कोर्टामध्ये कशी पनिशमेंट मिळते तशी. एक माळी जेव्हा बागकाम करतो तेव्हा तो चांगली फुलझाडं पेरत नाही, केवळ तेवढंच काम नाही करत, तर जे तण असतात त्यांना पण उपटून काढतो. Two things are important. The useless plants have to be uprooted and the good plants have to be planted. So here is Krishna, and in Dharma Kshetra, he is going to establish the rule of good people and he is going to uproot the weeds, the tan that are there in the form of Duryodhan, Dushasan, and so on. So this is the fear in the heart of Duryodhan. And now at the end, we also saw fear in the heart of Arjun. But the fear in the heart of Arjun is more born of, am I doing the right thing? माझ्याकडून चुका तर नाही ना होत आहेत. आणि माझ्यामुळे पूर्वजांना जर पिंडदान बंद झालं, माझ्यामुळे जर पाप घडलं, माझ्यामुळे जर माझ्या स्वजनांची हत्या झाली, तर हे किती मोठी चूक असेल. तर श्रीकृष्ण, तू थोडंसं मला मार्गदर्शन करशील का? इट मीन्स there is fear in the hearts of evil people and there is fear in the hearts of good people, but the category is completely different. The quality of that fear is completely different. Fear in the hearts of evil people is born out of possessiveness, greed, and all that. And fear in the hearts of good people is born out of fear of not disrespecting others. मी कोणाचा अपमान तर नाही ना करत आहे, मी कोणाला त्रास तर देत नाहीये ना, ही पण भीती आहे. ही किती छान भीती आहे, ही किती सकारात्मक भीती आहे. This positive fear is such a big lesson for us. We should never become so much fearless that we become shameless. एक निर्लज्ज व्यक्ती असतो त्याला पण भीती नसते, कारण निर्लज्ज आहे तो, त्याला काय फरक पडतो, तो कुठेही कसाही बोलतो, कसाही वागतो. आणि ऍक्च्युली त्याला अभय नाही म्हणत, त्याला निर्लज्जपणा म्हणतात. तर एक सुसंस्कृत व्यक्ती म्हणजे काय? एक सुसंस्कृत व्यक्ती असा आहे जो नेहमी इतरांना सुरक्षित ठेवेल, इतरांना कधी त्रास नाही देणार, पण त्याच्यामध्ये नेहमी एक भीती तो बाळगणार आपल्या हृदयामध्ये, की माझ्यामुळे कोणा त्रास नाही ना होते, माझ्यामुळे कोणाची फजिती तर नाही होते ना. And this is that positive fear that all of us can aspire for. And we can all pray to Krishna and we can all learn from Arjun that, oh Arjun, you're such a nice gentleman, that even in this place when you have somebody like Krishna with you, still in a very transparent way, you place your doubts, you place your questions before Krishna and you ask them, am I doing something wrong? Please, Krishna, please guide me. So many of us, when we are running our hospitals, we look for good staff, is it not? So when we are looking for good staff in the interviews or while talking to the prospective candidates, we'll interview them nicely and we are searching for basically good subordinates. आपण कुठल्या स्टाफला जेव्हा हायर करतो तर तो आपला ऐकायला पाहिजे, आपले जे प्रोटोकॉल्स आहेत आपल्या हॉस्पिटलचे ते फॉलो करायला पाहिजेत, नाही का? सो वी आर ऑलवेज ऑन द लुकआउट फॉर गुड सबऑर्डिनेट्स. आय टेल यू समथिंग. Actually, in our life, we don't recognize this and we don't realize this. But actually, deep within our hearts, more than looking out for good subordinates, actually, all of us are looking for a good master. आपल्यापेक्षा कनिष्ठांना चांगले कनिष्ठ मला मिळायला पाहिजे, चांगले माझ्याशी कोऑपरेशन करणारे सबऑर्डिनेट्स मिळायला पाहिजे. याच्यापेक्षा खूप खोल आपल्या मनामध्ये एक एक we have a search going on. Can I get a good master? Why? because all of us can get confused in our lives, and all of us have experienced confusion in many times in our lives. And we are rich, we are popular, we are famous, we are intelligent, we are beautiful, we are strong. But when the confusing moment comes, our own intelligence does not work. And that time, actually, we are searching for a very good guide. कोणतरी माझ्या जीवनामध्ये माझा हात धरून, मी जेव्हा पूर्णपणे भ्रमित झालोय, मला हात धरून नीट वाट दाखवणारा कोणतरी एक व्यक्ती माझ्या जीवनात असावा. मोर दॅन सर्चिंग फॉर अ गुड सबऑर्डिनेट, ऍक्च्युअली माय डिअर फ्रेंड्स, ऑल ऑफ अस आर सर्चिंग फॉर अ गुड मास्टर. And that good master is always available to us in the form of Lord Krishna. If we become a good person like Arjun, and we stop being a person like Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, just like Krishna always helped Arjun in times of need, and Krishna never ever helped Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra in any way, I can assure you, if we practice good qualities like Arjun, we may face difficulties externally, but we will always experience the guidance of a good master, of a good guide, of a good Sarathi in the form of Lord Krishna in our own lives. And that's why not all difficulties in our life are meant to be solved. Not all problems in our life are meant to be solved. Some problems in our life are there to awaken us from our sleep. आपण ज्या निद्रेत, आपल्या तंद्रीत, तंद्री म्हणून एक शब्द आहे ना मराठीत. So we are all leading our lives in our own tandri. We don't realize that so many things that are helpful for us in our day-to-day life may not help us at the critical time. And an intelligent person is one who invests his daily time in trying to establish a connection with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Why? Krishna's help may not be necessary today. Krishna's help may not be necessary in 2025. But one particular day when none of our friends, none of our family members, nobody amongst our contacts on Facebook, on Instagram, on our phone, when they will not be able to help us, we'll actually have to go inwards, and we'll actually have to pray to Lord Krishna in our heart. Oh, my dear Krishna, please help me just like you helped Arjun. But that help will come only to those who have cultivated that relationship. So all of us are attending these seminars. These seminars are just to inspire us and to teach us that even if we think we don't need anybody's help, we will need Krishna's help. We'll need a very suitable master. ज्याला प्रणाम करून परिणाम बदलेल, अशा व्यक्तीशी मैत्री करणं खूप गरजेचं आहे. आणि ह्या सगळ्या नियमित होणाऱ्या सेमिनार्स मधून हा आपल्याला एक संदेश शिकायचा आहे आपल्या जीवनामध्ये. परमेश्वराशी नातं जोडणं हे खूप महत्वाचं आहे. सो परमेश्वर अनेक वेळा आपल्या जीवनामध्ये काही प्रॉब्लेम्स देतात, काही परिस्थिती देतात. का माहितीये? कठीण परिस्थिती जेव्हा येते तेव्हा आपण परमेश्वरला प्रार्थना करतो की हे परमेश्वरा माझी परिस्थिती बदला. पण परमेश्वर ती कठीण परिस्थिती आपल्या जीवनात त्याच्यासाठी देतात, कारण त्यांना आपली मनस्थिती बदलायची असते. So I was saying how not all problems are meant to be solved. Some problems are meant to awaken us. So Krishna sometimes sends difficult situations in our life, and we pray to Krishna to change our situation. But Krishna has sent those situations in our life to change our mentality, to change our thinking, to change our perspective. So if there are some challenges in our life, please accept them positively. And instead of running away from those challenges, see how those challenges are a wake-up call. Am I really leading my life in a proper way? Am I leading my life in an exploitative way? Am I leading my life by following the correct principles? Am I leading my life by following the wrong principles? If we are, even though we may be very powerful, like Dhritarashtra, like Duryodhan, we will always undergo fear. So it is said, जेव्हा आपण इतरांच्या सद्गुणांना स्वीकार नाही करत, तेव्हा त्याचा जी भावना निर्माण होते आपल्या मनामध्ये त्याला म्हणतात मात्सर्य. ऍक्च्युली त्यांच्यामध्ये सद्गुण आहेत, पण त्या सद्गुणांना आपण स्वीकार नाही करणार म्हणून मात्सर्य होतं. पण त्या सद्गुणांना जेव्हा आपण स्वीकार करतो तेव्हा त्याच्यातून जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात प्रेरणा. जेव्हा आपण इतरांवर नियंत्रण करण्याचा प्रयत्न करतो आणि त्या नियंत्रणाला काही प्रतिसाद नाही मिळत, म्हणजे आपण ते नियंत्रण करू शकत नाही, त्यातून जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात राग. राग आला मला. पण जेव्हा आपल्याला लक्षात येतं माझं जीवन हे इतरांवर नियंत्रण करण्यासाठी नाहीये, माझ्या स्वतःच्या अवगुणांवर नियंत्रण करण्यासाठी आहे, तेव्हा त्याच्यातून जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात सहनशीलता. जेव्हा आपल्याला एखाद्या व्यक्तिमत्वाचा तिरस्कार होतो, जेव्हा आपण एका व्यक्तिमत्वाला सहन करू शकत नाही, तेव्हा जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात तिरस्कार. किंवा आपण म्हणू शकतो की खूप राग, खूप कधी कधी असं वाटतं की याचा चेहरा पण बघू नये, तिरस्कार म्हणूया आपण त्याला. आणि जेव्हा एखाद्या व्यक्तिमत्वाला आपण ते व्यक्तिमत्व जसं आहे तसं स्वीकार करतो, तेव्हा ती जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात प्रेम. बिकॉज लव्ह इज बेस्ड ऑन accepting a person as he or she is and not trying to control that person. Of course, कधी कधी असं होतं की एखाद्या व्यक्तिमत्वाला मदतीची गरज असते, ते व्यक्तिमत्व आहे तसं आपण स्वीकारतो, पण त्याला मध्ये आपल्याला दिसतं की या व्यक्तिमत्वाला उद्या जीवनामध्ये बरेच संघर्ष होण्यात मदतीची गरज आहे. तर कधी कधी अशा जेव्हा व्यक्तिमत्वाला आपण स्वीकारतो, तेव्हा अजून एक भावना पण निर्माण होऊ शकते, त्याला आपण म्हणू शकतो दया. तर प्रेम किंवा दया कधी निर्माण होते जेव्हा आपण एका व्यक्तिमत्वाला जसं आहे तसं स्वीकारतो आणि नाही केलं तर तिरस्काराची भावना निर्माण होते. तशीच आपल्या जीवनामध्ये जेव्हा अनिश्चितता आहे, देर इज सो मेनी अनसर्टनिटीज, एनिथिंग कॅन हॅपन एनी टाइम. जेव्हा आपण ती अनिश्चितता स्वीकारत नाही, तेव्हा जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात भीती. आणि जेव्हा आपल्या जीवनाची अनिश्चितता जी सुनिश्चित आहे, जेव्हा ती आपण जेव्हा स्वीकारतो आणि पुढे जातो, तेव्हा आपल्या जीवनामध्ये जी भावना निर्माण होते त्याला म्हणतात साहस, करेज. So we can see how the uncertainties of life have not been accepted by Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, and that's why they're suffering from a big disease called fear. And the same uncertainties in the life of the Pandavas have been accepted wholeheartedly by Arjun, and that's why it has led to courage in his life. Mano, this is also another lesson from the first chapter of the Gita, that we need to be courageous, and for that we need to be brave. We need to accept life as it is, but accepting life as it is will not just simply make us courageous. We are also in search of a good master who will drive the chariot of our life and always guide us with the right instructions. And that is Lord Krishna. And Bhagavad-Gita is always there to help us. So, शेवटचा एक पॉइंट, कधी कधी लोक म्हणतात की भगवद्गीतेच्या पहिल्या अध्यायामध्ये श्रीकृष्ण काही बोललेच नाहीयेत. 2 शब्द फक्त बोलले, पश्चैता. हे अर्जुना, तुला बघायची होती ना सेना, बघ ही सेना बघ, एवढेच 2 शब्द बोललेत श्रीकृष्ण पहिल्या अध्यायामध्ये. खरी जी भगवद्गीता आहे, श्रीकृष्णाची जी शिकवण आहे ती दुसऱ्या अध्यायापासून सुरू होते. मग पहिल्या अध्यायाला ज्याच्यामध्ये श्रीकृष्णांचे शब्दच नाहीये, भगवद्गीतेमध्ये काय जोडलंय बरं? व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट क्वेश्चन. If the Bhagavad Gita first chapter does not have much words by Krishna, why is it counted as a part of the Gita? Because the first chapter of the Gita tells us the consciousness necessary to understand the Gita. As I mentioned at the beginning of the class, Bhagavad Gita is not a Jnana Shastra, it is a Vyavahar Shastra. It is to be accepted and practiced. But who can accept? Who can practice? A person like Arjun can practice, and a person like Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan can never accept the Gita and can never practice the Gita. म्हणून पहिला अध्याय, जसं आपण जेव्हा जेवायला बसतो तेव्हा अन्न स्वीकारण्याच्या आधी प्लेट घेतो, डाळ घेण्याच्या आधी एक वाटी घेतो, वाटीशिवाय डाळ घेऊ शकत नाही, ताटाशिवाय भाकरी भाजी चपाती भात घेऊ शकत नाही. प्लेट खूप गरजेची आहे, वाटी खूप गरजेची आहे जर आपल्याला नीट खायचं असेल तर. सो द फर्स्ट चॅप्टर इज टेलिंग अस how to have a proper consciousness, how to have a proper mentality, because in the second chapter Krishna is going to begin the Gita, and if we select a proper consciousness like Arjun has, then that nectar, that amrit of Gita will fall into that bowl of our consciousness and we can actually benefit from the Gita. But if we have a consciousness like Dhritarashtra, even though amrit is flowing from Krishna's mouth, but we may not be able to benefit. So this is the lesson from the first chapter of the Gita. I'm very thankful to all of you for giving me a chance to speak on the first chapter of the Gita. I'm especially thankful to all the organizers who have organized today's program. I'll stop here. If somebody has any questions, then you can unmute and you can ask questions. If possible, please raise your hand first so that we can take questions one by one. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
थँक्यू प्रोजी. खूप छान तुम्ही जे कन्सेप्ट सांगितले ना की जेवायच्या आधी ते ताट आणि वाटी तयार पाहिजे. सो खूप म्हणजे खूप छान
थँक्यू.
कन्सेप्ट होती.
थँक्यू.
तर आपण कशा प्रकारे म्हणजे ते ठीक आहे, गीता समजण्यासाठी ती कन्सेप्ट आपल्याला कळली, पण आपण आपल्या लाईफ मध्ये ती कन्सेप्ट कशा प्रकारे अप्लाय करतो?
See, our life will be full of temptations. Everyone's life is full of temptations. And actually, the way the world is going, more and more temptations are going to come in our life. When our life was not so much modern or advanced, there were a few temptations. Actually, more advanced technology is giving us more advanced temptations. So, especially in modern times, when our life is full of technology and so many temptations in our life, we have to more take the shelter of the Gita. We have to more associate with those who are practicing the Gita. Why? Because when we are protected in good association, then those temptations will not be able to touch us. आपल्या घराला जर कुंपण आपण चांगलं बांधलं असेल तर आजूबाजूचे जे जंगली प्राणी आहेत ते आपल्या घरातल्या सद्गुणांच्या गायींना अटॅक नाही करू शकणार. So all of us have good qualities in our hearts, and I'm comparing those good qualities in our heart to cows. And temptations are like lion, tiger, jackals who will try to attack them. But we need a good compound. And that good compound is the association of devotees of Krishna, the association of good people who are always willing to live a life based on principles. And in any situation, they will not compromise their principles. When we are surrounded by such people, there is always motivation, there is always that inspiration. No, although some people are laughing on me, but I think I should never deviate from the right path. And that inspiration, that support is very important in today's times. And when we live such a life, then it is guaranteed that Lord Krishna is on our side. Lord Krishna will always help us, even though we are all alone. But if Krishna is with us, then there is no problem. So it is said, when we are running alone, then that running is called a race. And with God runs with us, then it is called grace. आपण जेव्हा एकटे धावतो त्याला रेस म्हणतात, पण जेव्हा परमेश्वर पण आपल्या सोबत असतात आपल्या जीवनाच्या धावपळीत, तर त्याला म्हणतात ग्रेस किंवा कृपा. सो ऑल ऑफ अस वी कॅन ट्राय अवर बिट अँड वी शुड ट्राय अवर बिट. दॅट्स what is possible at our end, but we are always dependent on Lord Krishna, and that's why we are always also eagerly looking out for the association of those sincere practitioners of the Gita who will always inspire us, who will always support us. So association of good people, association of sincere devotees is very important in today's life, especially when temptations are all around, surrounding us on all sides.
Thank you, Proji, especially for the concept of race and grace. Thank you so much.
Anybody else would like to ask something? Yes, Vikram sir, can you unmute and speak?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, a very nice lecture on first chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. You spoke very well about that Bhagavad-Gita Vyavahara Shastra, not a Jnana Shastra, and that can be understood by being conscious like Arjuna. And you also spoke about how to become fearless. Prabhuji, you told that fearlessness can be obtained only by taking the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. And in our situation, what happens is sometimes when we are in sad part, when we are facing difficulties, we tend to surrender. But when we are in happy mode, we see abhi kuch nahi karna. So our sentence is also very temporary and dependent on a situation. So how do we remain surrendered to Krishna at all times? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you for this nice question. See, all of us will understand that our life is a mixture of happiness and distress, is it not? There is nobody who can say my life is only full of distress. And similarly, there is nobody who can say my life is always full of happiness. So even though we are experiencing happiness, intelligence is to understand even this happiness is temporary. Just like water drop on a leaf of lotus is always shaking, always moving, anytime it can drop off. Similarly, our life is so temporary. Actually, pre-COVID, everything was going on good, externally at least. And then suddenly COVID came and there was so much fear. And in those fearful times, I still remember how people were so much searching for spirituality on the internet. The most watched videos during COVID lockdowns were not those videos that were very popular in pre-COVID times. Actually, the most watched videos during COVID times were videos where people were talking about spirituality and not searching happiness in the outside world, but searching happiness inside, trying to connect with God in the heart. So spirituality actually got a big boom and renewed interest during COVID times. So what does it show to us? Everything is temporary. So the distress is temporary and the happiness is also temporary. In fact, when distress is accepted as temporary, there is some hope. चलो अभी ये जो दुख है, अभी ये जो तकलीफें हैं, वो तो temporary है. So it gives hope. But actually, when we realize that even this happiness is temporary, it should not make us depressed. It should just make us aware. We are in a world of temporariness. So whatever is there is temporary. Happiness is also temporary. Distress is also temporary. And instead of getting happy by understanding that distress is temporary, and instead of becoming depressed by understanding that happiness is temporary, we have to go beyond this happiness and distress, this elated feeling and the depression feeling, and understand these external things will keep on changing always, but one thing stays permanent through the ups and downs of my life. The one thing that stays constant in the ups and downs of my life is sometimes my shadow also leaves me. It is said the shadow never leaves us. There is always a shadow behind us. But at 12 o'clock in the noon, when the sun is above, that is the time even when the shadow vanishes. But even at that time, the Supreme Lord in the heart never leaves us. भगवान हमको कभी नहीं छोड़ते हैं. हमारी परछाई भी कभी कभी हमको छोड़ देती है. अमावस्या की रात को कोई परछाई नहीं होती है. दोपहर को 12 बजे कोई परछाई नहीं होती है. लेकिन अमावस्या की रात हो, पूर्णिमा की रात हो, दोपहर के 12 बजे हो, रात के 12 बजे हो, भगवान हमेशा हमारे साथ में है. So when we focus on the permanence in our life, in between all the impermanence in our life, everything is temporary, everything is impermanent. Our relationships and everything else is impermanent. Our success is impermanent. But one thing is permanent, our relationship with the Supreme Lord and the eagerness of the Supreme Lord to help us. So either he comes personally to give us the Gita, or there are so many pure devotees who have written their understanding on the Gita, their commentaries on the Gita, and they're trying to help us understand how to accept the Gita in our lives. So through his pure devotees or through he himself, how is it that even when we don't want the Gita, we don't want Krishna, but still Gita enters our life, either through books or either through some lectures, but this way or that way, Krishna's knowledge is somehow or the other entering our lives. This is the kindness of Krishna. This is the mercy aspect of Krishna. And I think we should always focus on this permanent aspect of Krishna's mercy that is there in our life. And in this way, the temporary happiness and the temporary distress will never ever disturb us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So thank you all for your patient listening. I'm grateful to all of you for participating in today's session. We'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a nice lecture. Just one announcement. Nanda Dulal Prabhuji is available from 14th of May to up to 21st of May. So we might be planning some offline program. We will post on our group. So thank you everybody for attending today's lecture.
Thank you everyone. Jai Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.
Jai.